Thank you. I think the original question, was how will councils adapt to the new regime of big society regime? I think what we have to start with is looking at what the current regime is, and it comprises substantial degree of prescription. To give you an example, we are told how often we should sweep streets in towns and communities of different characteristics. We are given photographs to help us determine whether the street is clean enough. There is a photograph of a clean street, and that's good, that's what you're aiming for. There is a photograph of a street that is acceptably clean, and that has got a few bits of litter scattered around it. There is a photograph of a street that is allegedly dirty, and that's got quite a bit of paper on it. And that is the kind of regime that we are currently operating in, and that is translated into many of the contracts and things that we have. And of course the whole thing is supported by an innumerable number of performance targets. And all of these activities take up time, they take up effort, and they cost you, the council taxpayers, money. And really, and I think one of the senses of the last few months is that these kind of regimes are now beginning to be seriously questioned. And I think we've seen some encouraging signs of removal in that area. So I think what we're looking very much to is a new beginning in terms of the big society and its principles. And these principles should translate down into almost every aspect of government. But we have to recognise that there will be a need for some forms of regulation in some areas. And as I said earlier in relation to planning, it is not purely a question of a free-for-all. It is a question of purpose, and it's a question of enabling that purpose to be achieved. And I think that is the message that I certainly give to people who ask me about what is the big society. It's about doing largely what we in Cumbria have been doing for a very long time in our communities, and it's about freeing up local authorities and others to do what they think best for the communities in consultation with them.
Just to, I hope, pull together the two contributions from the county and district. The issue is one of absolutely there is less money, and that is a problem that the nation has. But on the other hand, in principle, there is a clear wish to remove the kind of inspection targets and determination by central government of what that money should be spent on. By removing the regime of insisting that you must conform to this picture and you must do these things, it enables communities to spend the money that they have on the things which are important to them. And that is a basic principle that's being put forward. In terms of defining the big society, it can therefore be, in a way, quite easily stated in three questions. You start from the question, what can and should I do for myself? You move to the second question, what should we as a community do for ourselves together and for each other? And move to the third question, what is left therefore that the state must interfere with and it must do? And that is how the big society is moving forward and can be defined.
If I can just add to that, Jeff and I had long debates over the national park issue, but I feel that it maybe hasn't got the full story, and if we could allow Ruth Atkinson to speak, if she wouldn't mind. She did collate all the parish councillors' questionnaires, consultation. Thank you.
I'm Ruth Atkinson, I'm the Union Officer for Eton District Council. In respect of the consultation for the National Park, the gentleman behind me used the word veto in respect of the district and county's responses, and I think that is perhaps not the most useful word to use, because in fact in that consultation the district council and the county council were merely consultees in the same way that every parish council was a consultee, and every one of those layers of government considered the matter carefully and gave their responses back. And the parish council's response is just as important, I understand, to Natural England as is the district or the county's response, and it certainly will not be the district or the county who make any decision. It will be ultimately the Secretary of State via Natural England. Thank you.
That's amazing. We'll have to take a last question.
I'm Jot Anderton, Mayor of Appleby. I don't remember... Sorry. Jot Anderton, Mayor of Appleby. I don't remember ever seeing a letter from you stating about you coming out to the parish council meetings. I will check with our town clerk, but I have no recollection, but we would very much appreciate it if you would come out to Appleby. And as far as the fact of you saying that we are not taking part in consultation and not being proactive about it, we have been, and Eden District Council will know perfectly well, what we have been very proactive with and are continuing to be very proactive with is our TIC in Appleby. We only receive a very small grant from Eden District.
The Tourist Information Centre.
Sorry, yes, I apologise. We only receive a very small grant from Eden District Council. We have one, not ourselves, but our TIC manager, and her staff have won, highly commended in the awards, the Northern Awards for Tourism, just recently. And I'll pass you on to my TIC manager, and she'll just finish the question.
I'm sneaking in. I'd just like to say that I was really glad to hear that Eden District Council support the idea of a big society. And I would ask them, please can they acknowledge and continue to support successfully run community model Tourism Information Centre they have at Appleby, and possibly look at making their own run models, a similar sort of model, and we can have tourism provision throughout the District Council. Tourism is our second biggest industry, and the concern through these difficult times is that there will be no basic infrastructure, toilets and information centres left for them unless we look at the money we have and share it out fairly. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not actually I'm going to use my chairman's prerogative here because I'm afraid we are short of time, and I promised everybody in this room we'd finish at 4:30. Let me just say, though, to conclude, I mean, there will be very good responses from Eddie and from Gordon and from everybody about these issues, and we can conduct, of course, these conversations, specific issues, offline. But I think what this panel has suggested about the big society, if nothing else, is firstly that it is an unbelievably complicated process, this. There are so many aspects of our culture which make it easy to say big society, grassroots, bottom up, but very, very difficult to do. And it's not all because of bad reasons, some of it's because of good reasons. It's unbelievably complicated to actually change the way that government works. The bad reasons we all know. It is true, of course, there are some officials in government who maybe are not going the extra mile. But at the same time, county, district councils, central government itself are hampered by regulations and laws that are not of their own making. Furthermore, they are terrified all the time about accountability and risk. They're terrified that if they do the wrong thing, they're going to be sued, and then they're going to lose all the money from their council budget dealing with suing, or they're going to be criticised by voters. And so we have created ourselves, contributed to a culture of micromanagement, stiff regulations, risk aversion. These are all parts of who we are. And we add to it also in our management practices. All our talk about predictability, accountability, transparency creates its own kinds of burdens. And all of you who run charities and voluntary organisations and want to apply for money from a funding body have to fill out huge amounts of paperwork, jump through every kind of hoop to get the most practical things done. What we are engaged in doing then, today, is trying to move the dial a little bit. We're not actually engaged in an anarchist revolution. But what we are trying to do is use the fact that we have here on the stage, I of course wish I was engaged in anarchist revolution. What we have on the stage here is a very, very, I believe, genuinely good faith commitment from County Council from District Council, from central government, to shift that dial, to listen more to communities. This is a big deal, actually, to be honest. A lot of very senior people have come a very, very long way to be here today in the middle of Great Asby, which I'm not sure would have happened a year ago. And it's the beginning of what I hope will be a movement where at least officials will think. That's the great thing about big society. I mean, it's a pretty vague phrase, but the great thing about it is that it actually makes the officials stop for a moment and think, maybe I should just listen one more time to that community, give them a bit more freedom, ask myself, why can't the community do what it wants to do? And if we cling on to the fact that our communities know more, care more, can do more than distant people, and we all do our best on this stage to try to respect that central truth, then hopefully this afternoon we'll have achieved something. Thank you very, very much indeed all for coming.